Just about everybody understands that if you're going to be driving in the US, you need car insurance. But what's required by each state is liability insurance, and that protects your finances if you cause an accident. It will pay for the other party's damages, but it won't cover your own damages. So what do you need if you want full protection? The answer is full coverage. And if you want to get started comparing rates to see if maybe it's more affordable than you thought, head over to FreeAdvice.com. You're going to get a box like this at the top, and you can click auto insurance, enter your zip code, and get started on getting a bunch of quotes at once. It saves you time, it's free, and you can see if maybe full coverage is actually a good option for you. So now, what is full coverage? What does it consist of? Full coverage auto insurance consists of liability, collision, and comprehensive insurance coverage in a single policy. So, liability coverage, that's what I talked about first. That covers damage you do to another party. Collision coverage covers your vehicle after a collision that you cause. And comprehensive insurance covers your vehicle if it's damaged by something other than a collision. So if there's hail damage, if a tornado comes through, if there's flooding, comprehensive insurance. And it also will cover things like theft, vandalism, and fire. So we're going to look at what is included in liability insurance, because that is part of full coverage. This is the bare minimum. If you hear someone talk about the minimum requirements, they're talking about liability insurance. And what does that consist of? Well, it matters where you live, what is required. So at a bare minimum, liability insurance will cover bodily injury liability and property damage liability. So it will cover the cost of injuries that another party sustains after you cause a crash, and it will cover the cost of damages that the other party sustains after you cause a crash. Then some other ones that are fairly universally required but often can be opted out of is uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, and that will cover if somebody causes an accident with you and they're not properly insured, then this uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage will kick in, and that has both a bodily injury component and a property damage component. Then these last two, personal injury protection and medical payments or MedPay, those are required one of those anyway is required in no-fault states. So in an effort to reduce liability lawsuits, some states went for this no-fault car insurance policy in which each party in an accident is responsible for their own medical costs regardless of whose fault the accident was. So in those states, people are still required to carry bodily injury liability for very severe accidents or for when they're traveling out of state and they cause an accident in a tort state, or a state that puts the fault on one person for bodily injuries. And then the next, so we had talked about liability. The next is collision auto insurance. Collision auto insurance covers you for after a collision that you caused. You're responsible, but your insurance company pays for your damage. Now with collision insurance, you will have a deductible, and that can be, some car insurance places have a deductible that you can choose of 0, and you're going to pay the highest price for premiums if you have a 0 deductible policy, unless that 0 deductible is given to you as a reward of many years of safe driving. You could choose a deductible up to $2,000, and then your premiums will be lower. But keep in mind that if you have to file a claim for your car, you are going to have to pay that deductible. So you will get less from the insurance company, but in return, your premiums will be much lower. So it's a kind of a balance to decide how much you're willing to pay for a deductible. And a lot of people choose $500. And then the next component is comprehensive. And that will cover damage related to vehicle theft, fire, storms, falling objects, and other accidents that don't involve a collision. So bad weather, it's going to be the coverage you need is comprehensive. And if a tree falls on your car, that's going to be a comprehensive claim. And if you hit an animal, that's also going to be a comprehensive claim. So those are your basic full coverages. I'm going to jump to this NAIC article on what you need to know about auto insurance, and they kind of go over the same things, the coverage types. You've got comprehensive, collision, and liability. Those are your basics. And then your underinsured motorist, that falls under your liability coverage. And then we're going to look at a list of some other policies that would be considered add-ons, not part of full coverage, they would be add-ons. But to find out how much you could save by switching, head over to FreeAdvice.com, enter your zip code, and answer a few questions, and you're going to get a lot of quotes that you can compare side by side, apples to apples, and they are free. It's an easy way to save money on car insurance and to kind of give you a reference for what you could expect to pay. I'll jump over here to this graphic that shows you average rates for full coverage for different age groups. The orange is 16-year-olds, the blue is 30-year-olds, and the gray is 40-year-olds. So if you fall kind of in between those, you can kind of get an idea for how much your rates would be. Obviously, once you get to that 30-year-old age, they're not going to change very much. In fact, once you get to 25, they kind of lower a little bit through your 50s, but they are not going to drop drastically like they do between the time you're 16 and you're 30. So looking here, you can see that usually, males pay more as young 16-year-old drivers. Males present a higher risk, and so they tend to pay higher rates. And then as people age, then that difference in driving risk kind of stabilizes. You still might see a little bit difference between genders, but they're very similar, maybe $5 a month difference, nothing drastic. So in this, just looking at these 5 different companies, you can see that Geico has the lowest rates on average, and it looks like maybe Farmers or Liberty Mutual, they kind of have quite a bit higher rates. Now that could be different for you, and the only way to know is to compare quotes for yourself. So go to FreeAdvice.com, put your zip code into the tool, and you will get started getting quotes that could help you save a lot of money. So back to this NAIC article, these are some things you might want to consider adding. Guaranteed auto protection insurance, that's going to protect your financial interest when you owe more on your vehicle than it's worth. Rental insurance will cover the cost of renting a vehicle if yours was damaged in a collision. Emergency roadside assistance, roadside or towing coverage, that's not very expensive to add to your policy. And then medical payments or personal injury protection. Now that's going to be required in no-fault states, but in tort states you may choose to add that coverage. And then specialty vehicles, if you have an RV or an ATV, you can get policy through your auto insurance from many auto insurance providers for those vehicles. So if you want to start saving today on full coverage auto insurance, go to FreeAdvice.com and compare quotes, enter your zip code, compare quotes, and you could be on your way to saving hundreds of dollars a year.